We have attestations in the ancient biographies of Alexander that various cities were founded by him, but the propaganda that the successors put out was that all cities named Alexandria or variants had been directly founded by him, and several are definitely known to have only been founded several decades later. Since the histories in question were written centuries after the events, plenty of time had elapsed for their understanding of which cities Alexander founded to have been affected by this propaganda. Both Plutarch and Arrian were citizens of the Roman Empire, roughly 180 each. Their works were the transcribed stories of Alexander, often having passages that begin with a second-hand telling of the accounts of Alexander. Therefore, these sources become difficult to rely on as canon. The present-day town of Peda represents in the quadrilateral form of its medieval ramparts, and in its four gates and two main streets intersecting at right angles near the town center, the topography and grid pattern typical of Hellenistic cities. That back from the capital of Bactria, the most ancient rampart of the Acropolis, a solid mass equipped with projecting towers, perched on a high base of adobe, probably dates from the Greek period, though it is not possible to determine whether it was built under Seleucid rule. Regardless of when it was established, Ichabdum represents the pinnacle of the ancient phenomenon known as Hellenization. In the late 4th century BC, during this period, Greek culture was in the ascendancy from Greece itself to Egypt and as far as modern Afghanistan. The result of this amalgamation was a distinctly Greek culture that nonetheless had recognizable local influence. The town measures 2 kilometers in length and 1.5 kilometers in width, divided between upper and lower city like most of the Greek towns. There is a main street, and most of public buildings are of Greek style, but the plan is not strictly Hippodamian. In fact, the city shows a lot of Greek style but also some Iranian influences. The Corinthian capital was originally a Greek architectural feature, yet from the 1st century AD onwards, they became popular in the northwest frontier province. Sculpture is a notable example of this phenomena, as the large quantities of statues found in the Peshawar district were heavily influenced by classical forms. The columns found in Peshawar are not, however, identical to their Greek counterparts. They blend Indian and classical features and are therefore often described as Indo-Greek. Antioch was probably founded in 307 BC as Antigonia by one of the successors of the Macedonian conqueror Alexander the Great, Antigonius Monophthalmus. The details are unclear, but we know of the existence of this earlier city, and we know it was more or less in the area of later Antioch, and it is logical that the city was renamed after it had been captured by Antigonius' archenemy, Seleucus I Nicator. This happened after the Battle of Issus 301. Almost immediately, the victor founded 4 cities in northwestern Syria: Seleucia, named after himself; Antioch, named after his father Antiochus; Capania, named after his wife Apam; and Laodicea, named after his mother. This tetrapolis land of 4 cities was to remain the core of the Seleucid Empire. Seleucia Pieria, Turkey was founded by Seleucus I Nicator between 301 and 281 BC on the Syrian coast north of the mouth of the Orontes. The city was the port of Antioch. The foundations of a large Doric temple of Hellenistic date, almost 37 by 19 meters, dominate the town. The temple is praetoral 6 columns times 12. Many mints and different issues are defined, with mainly base and silver coinage being in abundance. A large concentration of mints existed in the Seleucid Syria, as the Mediterranean parts of the empire were more reliant on coinage and economic function. The symbol of Seleucid power was the anchor, which was placed on the obverse of coins. Seleucus I Nicator silver tetradrachm. Seleucia Pieria mint, about 300 to 281 BC. Head of Heracles right, in lion skin Zeus seated left, and left field, monogram in circle. Seleucid Kingdom. Antiochus I Soter 281 to 261 BC. Silver tetradrachm 16.70 gram, 29 millimeters. Diademed head of Antiochus I right, dotted border Basileus Antiocho, Apollo seated left on Omphalos, testing arrow in right hand, left hand on grounded bow to right, test cuts. Greek Seleucid 280 to 261 BC. Antiochus I. Silver tetra. silver coin of Antiochus II Theos, Antioch, 256 to 246 BC. Diademed head of Antiochus II Right. Seleucid Kingdom. Seleucus II, 246 to 225 BC silver tetragrammaton, 16.76 grams, 28 millimeters, struck at Antioch on the Orontes. Obverse diademed head of Seleucus II Right. Seleucid Kingdom. Antiochus III, 222 to 187 BC silver tetragrammaton, 16.95 grams, 28 millimeters, minted at uncertain mint 56 in Western Asia Minor, perhaps Ars, about 203 BC. Under the provisions of the treaty in Ephonia, signed in 188 BC between the Roman Republic and the Seleucid Empire, the areas Pisidia and Phrygia were incorporated into the Kingdom of Pergamon. The most glorious period of Antioch's history was timed immediately after its incorporation into the Roman Empire. Ancient Greek buildings were demolished, and impressive public buildings were erected in their place. Antioch was an excellent example of symbiosis of Greek and Roman culture. Its constitution was adapted from the original Greek one, and the city council bull still met. The officials were appointed by Rome, but had Greek titles. The official language of the inscriptions and documents was Latin, but Greek was frequently used in everyday affairs. The city retained the status of a colony for over 200 years. In Iraq, 18 miles south of modern Baghdad, lies the site of Seleucia on the Tigris, which rose, flourished, and dwindled away between 307 BC and AD 215. In the preliminary excavation of the site, archaeologists uncovered 3 levels of occupation later expanded to 4 and over 1,000 objects, plus signs of older Babylonian occupation. At the same time, their photos and air maps of the regions, in one of the earliest applications of aerial photography to archaeology, confirmed the rectangular pattern of streets indicating a major city. Tacitus described its walls, and mentioned that it was, even under Parthian rule, a fully Hellenistic city. Ancient texts claimed that the city had 600,000 inhabitants, and was ruled by a senate of 300 people. Appian tells the following legend about how the city was established. They say, also, that when the Magians were ordered to indicate the propitious day and hour for beginning the foundations of Seleucia on the Tigris, they falsified as to the hour because they did not want to have such a stronghold built against themselves. The ruins have been identified at Tel Umar, about 30 kilometers south of Baghdad, and 60 north of Babylon, which appears to have lost some of its citizens to the new city. Excavations have shown that the city was built according to a gridiron plan. As it was a Seleucid city, there will have been the usual, straight main street, perhaps decorated with colonnades. The course of the walls will have been determined by the shape of the site. In addition to Parthian structures, the largest Hellenistic archite building known so far, inside which over 25,000 clay ceilings were found. The archite was a public institution for storing documents, destroyed by a great fire in the last quarter of the 2nd century BC. Mithridates invaded Media and occupied Ecbatana in 148 or 147 BC. The region had recently become unstable after the Seleucids suppressed a rebellion led by Timarchus. This victory was followed by the Parthian conquest of Babylonia in Mesopotamia, where Mithridates had coins minted at Seleucia in 141 BC and held an official investiture ceremony. The coins minted during his reign showed a first appearance on Parthian coinage of a Greek-style portrait showing the royal diadem, the standard Greek symbol for kingship. Mithridates resumed the striking of coins, which had been suspended ever since Arsaces II of Parthia 211 to 191 BC had been forced to submit to the Seleucid Antiochus III 223 to 187 BC. In 206 BC, Parthia, Mithridates II 123 to 88 BC silver tetragrammaton, Seleucia on the Tigris.